I guess let's go to X-Men dropping men from the name.
Did they really?
I think they're no. I don't think they're actually doing it. I think they're thinking about
May
it.
drop
So
men from X-Men
yeah,
to be
Marvel
more
Studios may
inclusive.
drop men from X-Men to be more inclusive. Quote,
Or
I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in the X-Men group, so I think it's outdated. X-Men may soon be getting a makeover as Marvel Studios reportedly feels the name is not inclusive. According to the We Got This Covered, Marvel Studios' new president of physical post-production, VFX, and animation, Victoria Alanos, has suggested a possible name change.
Alonzo.
Go back up real quick, Ian. Was it Alonzo? It was Alonzo. Thank
yeah,
you. I told you I needed my
Alonzo.
glasses. I'm sorry. Quote. It's not the first time I messed up a name. Let's be honest
No, it's
here.
fine.
What was
It's
it?
fine.
PJ Washington or whatever I did. I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call. Okay, I just read that. Blah blah blah. In an interview, Alonzo also hinted at future projects in the MCU, which would be musicals. What? I'm especially thrilled about ramping up our studio animation efforts, which is a personal passion of mine. Looking forward to more singing. So, man, how do y'all feel about this one? To me, it sounds so stupid.
yeah. I think it's kind of lame. Like to me, if they're arguing semantics, where it's like X-Men, you have X-women, but like men is like the ending of both woman and regular men, like words. Like if anything, you just add it on there. So if you just put the X and then men, why can't that be inclusive to both?
Can you,
Why do you forcefully have to state X women or something like that? Or what would you even change it to? Or just change it to the X or to the mutants, something like that.
X
Um,
non-binary.
yeah.
then it's
I
gonna
mean,
be Q men. Hey,
yeah.
I'm joking. What I was
Well,
gonna
hold on,
say
real
is
quick.
wait,
like
hold
Ethan
on.
let us know that the
it's
X-Men
just
box
weird.
office totals are crashed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I would see it, especially since like, you know,
I
there, there's
almost don't want to
there's
watch
just
the new
already a
Matrix.
fucking brand. Like it's weird that they're changing it to that.
Can you that first sentence right there?
Which one, Studio
X
Head
Men
or
is too old fashioned and not progressive enough. Now let me tell you something about that sentence. That sentence is the beginning of a lot of bad shit that we're doing. It's too old fashioned and not progressive enough. Now we have to overcorrect.
it goes to kind of a little bit the argument kind of had with the whole He-Man thing. Just make your own story. Why do you got to take these
Jordan
already
Peterson, my boy.
pre-established stories, successful stories, and warp it into something of your own? It's not even yours to do that.
It's
Why don't
not
you
enough,
write your own
bro.
stories?
It's not enough. This comic that first introduced civil strife and fucking racial identity
For
is not
real.
enough.
On top
Like
of that, too, isn't the point of the comic and continuing it for there to be some type of connection between
ex-China.
between the older generation and the younger generation? So I would think that like a father would want to show his kids his X-Men toys, or not toys, or his X-Men comic books, or even share his X-Men experiences. If you start shifting the center too far, pardon me, burp, doesn't that kind of like you're kind of
Yeah, you
you're
alienate
damaging that
the
connection.
original.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's not
you
it's
alienate
all
the
the way
original people.
gone, but doesn't it make it a lot harder to like now if I'm somebody who, and it's not even about the identification or like being progressive or anything like that. If I'm somebody who just now has a bad taste in my mouth because it's not what it once was, and it's not like X-Men ever represented anything negative. I think that's a real thing we're actually struggling with. There are things that we need to change that represent negative things, but there are things that don't represent anything negative, but they're seen as not progressive enough. That's why I pointed out that sentence. Those things we don't necessarily need to change. Those things we're allowed to have middles.
That kind of gives credence to what Ethan said because they cannot make a good story based on their agenda.
Exactly. So now
Well,
you
it's
have
like
to.
fucking putting those little like plastic stoppers on all the corners in the house so that the baby doesn't fucking hit the corner and stuff like that. Like they're just like, no, we better put it right now so that it's taken care of, so nobody hurts themselves over X-Men. It's like so they're changing everything, and it's just a little too much. Like you can't make everything safe. And even then, like you you are right, John. Like you alienate the original party from it by doing this. Whereas like I would prefer a story of X-Men where Charles Xavier's daughter, who I think is a real character, it comes in and becomes the new leader of the X Men. All of a sudden, you have like a pro female protagonist and stuff like that, and you can show modern feminist ideals or modern opinions and stuff through it. But just as a continuation, and you don't just completely destroy Charles Xavier's legacy, so that you can actually bring in like people's fathers or grandfathers or whatever into the stories.
I think Marvel actually doesn't understand what they're selling. M- the the whole purpose of Marvel's hype, the whole purpose these movies do well, isn't just because kids want to watch them, because
The
the
story
3D
itself.
animated movies do well. The purpose of the Marvel universe was the fact that the whole family actually wanted to go see it. And so like if you're not, and the Marvel universe is so complex that there are characters that like Luke Cage, he's bulletproof. He's a bulletproof black man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's obviously a character that's made for a reason. And so for you to like to kind of like pander for something that I'm not saying won't last or whatever, but for you to pander to a specific audience instead of keeping it what it was, it shows me that you actually they don't understand what they were actually selling. Like they don't they and I started to see it shortly after, like even with a little bit with Black Panther. You done the agendas, they started pushing agendas more and more and more, and it became less of what it became less of us
Like I try to say
enjoying
about the
something
story. Like it's
and
less
you
about the
telling
story.
us,
Yes.
yeah, you guys now I'm going there, and it's not even them. So this is what happens: you get so smart, you get too smart for yourself, and so you try to market what you think the person wants to hear before they can even tell you. But the problem with that is you're risking it. And so when you're now pandering and telling us what you think we want to hear based off what's going on in the world, and you seeing like liberal agendas going on and a lot more progressive type things going on, you're jumping the gun. Now you're at the forefront of something that necessarily we haven't even created a nuance to the message yet. Now you're just jumping the gun on it. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I also think that they just kind of need to have confidence in themselves to create new stories or new characters and new teams and stuff like that. Like you have like the original like comics that Stanley wrote, like Black Panther and stuff like that. I think he was a producer on that one. I don't think he actually wrote it. I'm not too sure.
Hmm.
But like that was all a reaction to the issues at the age of, that he created the character. Or like when he wrote the Incredible Hulk, he was going through like the ends of World War II after the atomic bomb had been blown up, and so he wanted to see what would happen if a superhero came out of that, and he created the Hulk and stuff like that. And so like new things came out of history. This it's just like new things are happening, but they're too scared to create new things, so they go and they re-change things that have already been made, and then they hope that the brand will profit enough for them to have made a safe move. I think that's the thing. I think they view it as a safe move to just resell us what we want with modern ideology, where it's actually kind of insulting because you're rewriting history in a lot of ways, and sometimes like it's not done well enough to where it's offensive. Because you alienate the original group that held it up. And I think that's the biggest issue. Like that was my huge issue with He-Man, where it's just like I've recently it's weird that it's like a super nerdist thought, but like I've recently come to terms that a lot of intellectual property that nerds propped up through the fucking struggles of like the 80s and the 90s of being called nerds and stuff like that, it's now because it's mainstream is being taken away and stripped for them. Like
Mm,
they liked it when
yeah.
nobody else liked it. They were just fucking geeky guys in
That's how I
fucking
feel about
basements that held it
anime,
up.
dude. I'm not
And
gonna
it's just like all of
lie.
a sudden, oh, it's profitable, and so we're gonna strip it from you. We're gonna make it in our image, even though you were the ones that kept up with it to make it profitable. And it's just like, ugh, like that's so bad. That's why there's so much backlash. Like those guys are, they just feel upset. Um, so I mean, comics the majority of the time was mainly held up by men because it was their hobby for a long period of time. And so I think if you actually spit on them as you strip it away, you're really, really harming yourself. And so if they can make something that has a lot of taste and still save the legacy of what came before it, then yeah, I would hope that they strive to do that. But it's gonna have to be executed very, very well with a lot of finesse.
Again, there's a difference between something that was perpetuating something negative and something that was just like it didn't perpetuate any negative real stereotypes or anything like that. So it's like, why are we picking this? This is like, for example, if me and you are the only two guys, right? And there's a staircase, okay? And we both use this staircase to get to wherever the fuck we're going. And then something happens to you, or something happens to the person that represents you, God forbid, and now you're in a wheelchair. It's like getting rid of the staircase and making it a ramp, or getting rid of it and making it something that only suits you. It's not, what about me? You know what I'm saying? The staircase wasn't hurting you. Why not just add a ramp on the side? Why not make it wheelchair accessible? Why not add to the Marvel universe? Why not keep growing it if it's not progressive enough? Why not add to it? Why do you have to take away? That is weird to me when you're taking away, because when you take away something, there's like the past of it, the history of it is not important anymore.
You change it and like all that stuff.
It's
Yeah.
it's just not important anymore. And then now, like, if you're somebody, and I'm not like, I love Marvel, but I'm not like the biggest Marvel nerd or whatever. So like, if you're now changing things that would actually change the history that's important to these guys, it's like what happened with the Star Wars shit. A lot of people that like Star Wars were not happy with the
I'm not
recent
happy
movies
at all.
because just seem disrespectful. And so, to me, I mean, again, I'll tell you this much. I'll say all this shit. I don't care. Really don't care. Like, my opinion don't mean shit anyway. So, I don't care. If they want to call it X Jesus, if they want to call it X Men, if they want to call it.
I care because I'm a fan. Like I care. Like I grew up watching X-Men. Grew up with the Marvel universe. You know, grew up with as you said, Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm part of it. And like how Doc said it's with the He-Man thing. He kind of like with his brother example story he used when he was talking about the He-Man thing. I guess just kind of like since you're as you've mentioned several times, we're getting older, approaching 30. It's just I guess we're the old people complaining now. Like you're changing what we grew up with. Why are you doing this?
No, I agree with it, but I'm saying I don't care enough to, for example, if them changing the name didn't affect the quality of the movie. Like if, for example, if they weren't putting in agendas and stuff, and they were still giving us bomb ass movies, I'd still watch the shit.
I think it'd actually be a good story arc, like if they had the X-Men and then all of a sudden they had like a new sect of people called the New Mutants. And the
Hey,
New
if they really
Mutants were
smart, right?
telling the X-Men why like they
Aren't they
should be
doing
like
something like that?
them.
New Mutants?
Yeah, they are. It's
I mean,
uh
yeah.
I think it got bad reviews though because it's
You do not
too
want.
much.
Listen,
Goes back to what
listen
Ethan
here.
said in there.
Listen
It
here.
fails.
Don't change it.
fails.
You do not want to put. You do not want new mutants to be attached to the LGBT community. I
They
promise.
really
I
have you seen them?
promise you, that's the worst idea I have ever heard. I was even
They
gonna say,
really
hey,
fucked up
they
on
should
them,
keep
I'm
the
not gonna
men
lie.
and add an E in front of the X, and just be like X Men, and then it'd be a whole whole group of mutants. Huh?
If I'm thinking about the right thing, I know that they really messed them up because they made them look like neon drag queens and stuff like that. Like they didn't look like cool X-Men that were just were gay or just trans or
How
you know what I mean? Like they made them look like specifically like this is a SJW like warrior, like they're super pinked out and neon colored everything and like it just I don't think it looked the same.
Okay, I'll put it like this. I'm not bringing religion into this or anything like that, but so if these are the figures that they want us to represent, that that we need to represent good, to be like icons and role models for the future, because that's essentially what heroes are and stuff like that. Even if you don't believe in Jesus, if you don't believe in Muhammad, if you don't believe in any of these, in Buddha or whatever, at least at least there was no foul play to anybody else, as far as when Christians and Muslims or whatever religions carry out stuff, that's them. You know what I'm saying? That's their flaws, that's their shortcomings. But the icon itself,
Jesus.
yes, did not. The whole purpose was he didn't commit sin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so I'm not saying anything that they're doing is a sin, but if you're making that the new hero, isn't there some form of accepting of, do we not chase perfection? Like, I needed my heroes. Some of them, they had flaws, as in, oh, they were man. They could overcome them.
That's what made
or
some of the
whatever.
Marvel universe so
Yeah,
enjoyable, I guess,
But-
because they had flaws.
but the ideal that they tried to promote was actually an idea of perfection most of the time. Before we got the Marvel movies now, the heroes weren't really human. Like
Like one of the flaws with Superman when the first came out was that he was just too perfect, and that's why they introduced kryptonite.
boom, and like, so like the heroes weren't like relatable in that way, that they were just, oh, like the everyday nuances of life. Now we see it in movies, we see love interests, we see all that stuff. But when you put characters like this, now you switch them, you switch their genders, and you switch all these other concepts. I just feel like, in my opinion, you're almost, this sounds so bad to say, but you're almost lowering the bar for what you want in a hero. Because I thought the point of a hero was the chasing of like some morally superior
Higher
being.
purpose thing.
Yeah, and so it's just like, I don't know. That's where it bothers me. But I guess
Well, it also makes me wonder, like, if at some point somebody's going to propose the option to change Jesus into a woman, to be like, why does
Boom.
the Messiah have to be a man? Like,
Oh
why
yeah,
can't it be a woman and stuff like that?
Jesus is gay. The album is dropping soon. I promise you, Lil
God
Nas X is
forbid.
working on it. I promise
would.
y'all, Lil Nas X working on it.
Actually, now that you say that makes sense. Wow.
Yo, you made it to the end. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching Fake Deep Thinking. If you like the show, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and to share. We really appreciate everything and appreciate you. So take it easy. Peace.
Peace.
Have a good day.